Hello again, my brothers and sisters. Today's reflection are the readings on Thursday, July 29th, the 17th week of Ordinary Time. And our first reading again stays with Exodus. And this section of Exodus, the point where Moses has already acquired the tablets of the commandments and the sign of the great covenant of God with God's people. And Moses decided that while they are encamped, then this ark, this place within which the commandments are placed, needs to have a dwelling. And so he builds a dwelling. It's described in there. They say, it was Moses who erected the dwelling. He placed its pedestals, set up its boards, put in its bars, and set up its columns. He spread the tent over the dwelling and put the covering on top of the tent as the Lord had commanded him. And so it was inside this kind of edifice that the Ark of the Covenant, with its treasure of God's covenant, the Ten Commandments, would reside. And once he had done this, the tent, the dwelling, was filled with cloud, with smoke. And smoke and cloud is the primary method of Shekinah in the Hebrew, of an indicator of the presence of God, even more so than flame. And so just look at the cloud that surrounded Jesus at the Transfiguration and many of the other Old Testament stories that talks about God's presence being signaled by a cloud. And during the day, this ark dwelling was covered with smoke, and at night with flames, so that people could always be aware and see and know the presence of God was there. And if the cloud was there, they would not move and travel, Only if the cloud was not there did they pick up the ark on those poles and carry it further on their journey. I'm not sure what that has to do with anything about your lives, maybe mine. But sometimes when we're kind of in a cloud, and I think you all know what I mean by that, we're living in a cloud, we don't see it as God's presence immediately, do we? But it is a cloud. And when we're in that cloud, it's hard to move. It's hard to get up and go to another place. It's hard to see ourselves getting up and doing something. Maybe you're in that cloud called depression. Maybe you're in that cloud called anxiety or fear. Maybe you're in that cloud called pain or worry over someone who is close to you, who is in pain or is close to dying. We do live in that cloud. And only later do we really realize within that cloud was God, covering me all around me, holding me, maybe healing me just enough that I could move on. And then our gospel. It's John's gospel where Martha and Mary are distraught with death of their brother Lazarus. And Jesus finally decides to come on and do something. Maybe he was in his cloud. And Martha goes out and says, my brother has died. And Jesus says, no, he's going to rise again. And Martha says, well, I know he's going to rise again, but that's way, way, way in the future. And Jesus says, no, he's going to rise again today. Because he says, looking at her, when she's in her cloud of grief, it says, I am the resurrection and the life. Life is totally contained within me. And with my own death, death will be destroyed because life always wins out. And we also have, even in our own lives, daily lives, aren't we totally aware of all the times that new life has followed death? Just think about it, reflect on it. All the times we have experienced death in our lives, exterior of ourselves or inside of ourselves. And we come back alive, new life, new understandings, new wisdom, new degrees of compassion and forgiveness, new. And Jesus tells us, as he tells Mary, I am the resurrection of life, and those who believe in me shall never die. That's his promise. We can bank on it. And so, in reflections today, go with the blessing of God's love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.